Swimming in the open water is a very different experience to swimming in your local pool.
Yeah, your equipment choices, how you might swim with others, and also how you prepare for your swims may differ considerably to your usual pool swims.
Yeah, so with that in mind, we have got our top tips to get you best prepared for the open water swim experience.
Okay, first things first, when it comes to open water swimming, unless you are lucky enough to live in a nice tropical climate, you are probably going to need a wetsuit. Now, when we swim in a swimming pool, they are normally maintained at a nice balmy 28 degrees Celsius, so there or thereabouts. Open water is obviously going to be a lot colder than that. Well, it is at least in most places, definitely is here in the UK. And when it comes to events, when the water temperature dips below 15 degrees Celsius, or there or thereabouts, normally it's mandatory to wear a wetsuit. So why do we need a wetsuit? Well, one, for warmth, but also for buoyancy. Now, it is really important, and this is our first tip, get a wetsuit that fits you well. That means hopefully trying on a wetsuit before you're buying it, but crucially making sure it fits. If it's too big, it's going to be letting too much water in and slow you down. If it's too tight, it's going to restrict your breathing, your movement, and also it's going to be very hard to take off. So make sure you get the sizing right on it and get a wetsuit that fits you.
As with many things in life, practice just makes things easier and you've just become more used to it. And it's exactly the same when it comes to open water swimming. So as tempting as it is to do all of your training in the pool, the more often you come to the open water, the more you're going to get used to it and the more confident you're naturally going to become. And there's some significant differences which are fairly obvious, such as there's no wall that you're going to be turning around on where you have that momentary rest. There's no black line to follow. The water is going to be a bit murkier and usually it's also going to be a lot colder. So practicing this regularly, all of these factors will soon become just kind of part of your normal swimming and you won't even think about them.
And following on from that, we have swimming with others. Yeah, we would fully recommend and advise that you swim with others and not on your own, or failing that, at least having someone watching from the sidelines or from the shore. And don't worry if the other swimmers that you are swimming with are of different abilities. You can always loop back and swim with them or vice versa. And if you don't have anyone to swim with or can't find anyone, then we'd fully recommend joining a local triathlon or swimming club. And aside from just the safety aspect, we also have the training element that comes from swimming with others. You can learn how to draft off them, you can get pushed on by them, and simply just get used to swimming in and around other swimmers.
Staying relaxed when it comes to the open water is a little harder than in a pool. To start with, the temperature is going to be much colder and this can cause you to shorten your breath and almost panic. So in order to be prepared for that, it's a good idea to make sure you get in gradually, splash your face with some water, get your hands cold and just get your body used to that temperature, and then you're not going to have that shock response when you do get in and start swimming. And once you're in, yes, the water's going to trickle inside your wetsuit and it won't feel very pleasant to start with, but that's soon going to stay as a layer between your skin and the neoprene and actually heat up, and it's basically the way that you stay warm. So it's all about just getting used to it and being prepared mentally for what's to come. And as we said, there are no walls in a open water venue, so try to break up your swim. If you're new to it, just do say 40 strokes at a time and have a rest. And you're wearing a wetsuit, so you're going to float. You don't need the wall to hang on to.
Now, aside from our wetsuit, there are a few other bits of kit that are really useful, particularly for colder open water swimming. So it's worth remembering that we lose a significant amount of heat through our head. So a neoprene skull cap is fantastic for cold open water swimming. And I've got to say, I probably use this more than I should do, particularly for here in the UK. And then we have, for protecting our extremities, neoprene gloves and booties. Now, these are fantastic. I'd advise these for very cold training. Probably not so much for racing, but brilliant for training. And then we've got things like this. thermal underlayers or vests. Now, this is the heat seeker from Orca. And again, I probably wear this more than I should do, but they're really good for just keeping you warm in the colder temperatures. And finally, our goggles. Now, this is worth thinking about. Now, often we all just grab any old set out, but depending on the light conditions and the sun glaring down and reflecting off the water, you may want to opt for tinted goggles or non-tinted if it's really dark and something that's going to enhance the light in the water. Equally, The size of the goggles, you may want to go for some slightly larger goggles for open water swimming, just to give you that slightly wider field of view.
Well, the next tip is to be visible, wearing a bright coloured swim cap, as much for your own safety, but also just so that other people can spot you. And if you're swimming in the cold open water, you might want a neoprene cap. Some of those come in bright colours. If it doesn't, then simply pop one of these caps on over the top. And another really handy piece of kit, especially if you're swimming somewhere that's quite busy, is investing in a tow float. This can actually double up as obviously helping with safety and making you very visible as it floats behind you, but also you can store a few things like maybe your car keys in. You might want to put them in another dry bag just in case, but these are usually pretty dry and you can be seen from quite a long distance if you're towing something like this behind you.
Now, obviously, open water swimming is quite different to simply jumping in the swimming pool and following the black line. It requires a little bit more forward planning and preparation beforehand.
Yeah, and once you've followed these tips and you've had some regular practice, you'll find that going to the open water just adds a really nice variety to your training. Well, hopefully you have enjoyed this and it's inspired you to get out and do some more open water swimming. If so, do give us a like, follow us on our social media channels, and if you've not yet done so, make sure you subscribe here on YouTube.